I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
You know what I thought about Jim Moore as I'm watching Nick Taylor chip in on 18 for an Eagle and then win in a 2-hole playoff yesterday is F you, Corey Connors. Picked the wrong damn Canadian to win.
Yeah,
F
Nick
you.
Taylor. Yeah.
F you, Corey Connors.
Yeah,
God.
I was disappointed in myself that I usually will bet on the local guys. You know, I'll sprinkle a little bit on them. I put $2 on Taylor going into the final round, but he was 17-1. You know Turcotte, our buddy Turcotte?
Sure, Steve Turcotte, the guy that is a wheeler, dealer, hustler. He hustles people up here for basketball tournaments and then down there in the desert for golf. Yes, I know, Steve.
He texted me his winning ticket on Nick Taylor yesterday from the Emerald Queen, $5 at 100-1.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see what he was when he was teeing off at 18? He was 250-1.
Was he? Because when he chipped in for Eagle to get in the playoffs.
He chipped in at Eagle to get in the playoff. He was 250-1. He had a 0.4% chance to win.
Yeah. You like seeing his yardage book there with that big old purple W on it?
Whatever. I always like Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor's a fun golfer, and it was great. But God, come on! If there was one Canadian that was going to win, why could it not be Corey Connors? That's a miscut. So the golf season for me is off to a roaring start of finishing damn near last again. I am throwing money away, and I need to stop. All right. Let's get it started officially.
No one cares about that stuff but you and me.
I know. I'm the only one. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, but wait a minute. Before you move on, though, Nick Taylor, since it's a local angle, because he played at University of Washington. I think he's from Abbotsford.
British Columbia.
I remember interviewing him one time. Seemed like a good guy. Talked to his dad about his story and everything. And so good for him. But you talk about a clutch guy.
Oh, my God.
Nick Taylor is 3-0 in playoffs.
Yeah.
And yesterday, the other thing that occurred to me, because I played golf yesterday, I'm down in Arizona, shot 94.
Oh, no one cares about your score, but go ahead.
No, I know. Well, if I said, I'm not going to be like Troy Wins and go, yeah, I shot a 79. Oh, bullshit, Troy. You did not. At Chambers
How many
Bay,
breakfast balls do you think Troy Wins has on a given round?
I don't know. But here's what occurred to me. I'll bring it all around. It'll all make sense here in a second. There were a couple of drives I hit where I was only 90 yards to the flag. So I'm laying one in the fairway, 90 yards to the flag. I took a 9 on one of those holes, and I took a 7 on the other. The reason I bring that up is because when I was watching Nick Taylor against Echeverria, is that his name?
I think that's how you pronounce it, yeah.
Okay, and so just for the listeners who weren't watching like you and I were, Echeverria is on the fringe in 2 on this par 5, probably 40 feet away, maybe 50. And Nick Taylor's out in the fairway laying 2, and he's got to, hit like a 60, 70-yard shot. So he puts it up there in 3, and you're thinking, God, this guy just needs to get down. The Colombian dude just needs to get down in 2, and he's going to assure himself of going to another playoff hole or maybe winning if Taylor misses his putt. Echeverria gets down in 3, and Taylor gets in 4 and wins the tournament. So the short game is the key to good golf. Did you know that?
Yes, just like running the football is key in the National Football League and good offensive line play. Yes, of course. We all know that.
The Colombian should have won. The Colombian should have won when he was on the fringe.
But us idiots, we go to the driving range. I'm going to take out the big stick and pound drivers for 2 hours. No, it's 100 yards in. It's the name of the game.
Oh my God! It
was great. The chip in
was him over the greens and.
Well, yeah, the one on the second playoff hole where he put it, tap in. I mean, it's just stupid.
No, so good, good. It's so fun to watch, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was more entertaining than what game was on at that time? Was that the Bills game? No, that was the
Green Bay Philadelphia game.
Yeah, I guess that got good late, but you know what? That game was boring. They've all been boring. They've been just
last night's game was boring.
Excuse me. Besides Washington and Tampa Bay, but the previous ones were boring. All right, we welcome you in officially. The Daily Puck Drop. We do it every single day, 10 a.m. It drops down for you. If you're watching this live, we appreciate it. You can also watch it later. We're up on YouTube. When you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe there to the channel. Over 4,000 subscribers. Let's keep pushing it up. Let's go more and more and more and more. Before we get to baseball season, let's get to 10,000. Can we get 6,000 before baseball season starts? Probably not.
Why don't you shoot for 5,000 before?
I want to go right to 10. Right to 10. Right to 10,000. Also on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and of course, always up at pucksports.com. I come via the Limbach Lumber Studios. Contractors that got a deal for you. They got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects, the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. When you go there, say you want the Hugh Millen Tour. Don't ask me now to explain it. They'll explain it once you get there. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. And Jim's Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday appearances are brought to you by...
What do you mean sometimes Friday?
Sometimes, yeah, dude. Go ahead. What are you brought to you by?
A Clean Streak, professional window and exterior cleaning service out of Oak Harbor, Washington. Beautiful Whidbey Island, proudly serving Island and Skagit counties for more than 10 years. Brian Turner, give him a call at 360-395-5748. You know what they do for you? They'll clean your roof, they'll clean your gutters. And nobody likes washing windows. Not a single soul on earth likes washing windows because you always get a streak and you can't quite get it right. Well, Brian Turner and his crew, he'll get it perfect for you because they're window washing experts, Puck. Did you know that? That's right.
Best athlete to ever come out of Oak Harbor.
Was it the quarterback? Marshall Lobostal?
There you go.
How was that, huh?
Pull. I don't know if he truly is the greatest athlete to come out of Oak Harbor. That's just the only athlete I know out of Oak Harbor. He was
good, though, for it. Wasn't he good for us?
Yeah, Marshall Lobostal was not bad. I mean, he was, unfortunately, was kind of in that period of the dark period of Cougar football. And there have been many dark periods, but that was a real dark period.
Which one?
That was probably one of the darkest. Was the Paul Wolf dark one.
I recall the Steve Birnbaum era as being a very, very dark. Yeah, so dark you couldn't really see the hand in front of your face. Dark.
But that didn't last long.
Well, thank God.
That didn't last long. Every time I think of Steve Birnbaum, I will always remember Ryan Leaf when he declared for the NFL draft and he not coming back, and he said something to the effect of, "Don't worry, Cougar fans, you're in good hands because Steve Birnbaum is good. We play Bill Walsh college football all the time, and he beats me." And I'm thinking, it's a video game, Ryan.
I don't know why I always bring up poor Steve Birnbaum.
He was just because there was Steve Birnbaum, Paul Menke, there was the Chad Davis errors. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, Paul Menke wasn't very good either, was he? No, but anyway, Oak Harbor, a clean streak. Visit acleanstreak.com and get your free estimate today. How's that, Puck?
Thank you to Brian Turner. And again, in the holiday season, he also has the Bright Owl lighting. We still have the lights up. I said, Brian, we're going to go to the end of January on these things. I like it. Looks good. And I might even convince him, let's go through February. At what point do you pull down Christmas lights, do you think?
I think the middle of February or middle of actually, all year round's fine with me, but I think most people would say probably the second week in January, second weekend.
When are you becoming annoying, though? Is it if I go all the way through February, are people like, all right, it's time now? You can take them off.
Well, it depends. I think you're all white, aren't you? Your lights.
Well, I do live in Ballard. Yeah.
I mean, but no, if you have all white lights, I think it's okay that you can get away with it for a little longer.
Are you saying the colored lights are the problem in the neighborhood, Jim?
Yes, I think. You know, we don't have any colored lights in Bend, Puck. Come on.
That's damn right about that.
Yeah, come on.
All right, so I can leave it up through February.
Well, I mean, it's fine with me, but you might have a neighbor that gets upset about it.
No, neighbors in Seattle, no one gets upset. It's all passive. They may get upset underneath their breath and like walk around storming and stomping everywhere, but no one ever really gets upset.
Okay, let me ask you a question that I found out. My sister has an issue with a neighbor down here, and it's a Scottsdale neighborhood, and it's a nice neighborhood, but it's not gated community type nice. They have a thing about garage doors being open, and they'll have complaints in the neighborhood if you don't shut your garage door because people don't like looking in people's garages. I don't know. There might be, you could do it for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, but if it's an hour.
Why?
Because they don't want to look at the inside of your garage.
Is she in a
keep in
neighborhood
mind,
where
her sister has nice cars, her and her husband, a BMW. They're both convertibles. They're white. They're beautiful, shiny.
God, white again. Yeah, okay. Hey.
They're white. Okay, I can go off on that tangent, too. One of my pet peeves, along with litter, people who buy white cars.
Why?
Why would you buy a white car? Do you know where I'm going with this? It pisses me off.
They show more dirt, right?
Huh?
Do they show more dirt?
No, because anytime they pull off to the side of the road, you think they're a cop.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't get people who buy white cars.
Okay,
my daughter has one. My sister has one. I don't have one.
Interesting.
Maybe somebody on your text line. What is it with white cars? Why do people like white so much?
Well, I don't know. You live in Bend. You tell me.
Yeah, there you go. Another hanging curveball.
You set it
You
up.
think you're so damn funny.
Yes.
You're not that funny.
You set it up.
You're
on
not
a
that
tee
funny.
for
Your
me.
kids don't think you're funny. Your wife doesn't think you're funny.
All true, but I don't care.
No, I know you don't. Have you ever had a white car?
No, I like diversity in my life. Unlike you and your family. Have I ever had a white car? No, I have not had a white car. No.
Yeah.
I have not.
Am I wrong? Whenever you see a white car on the side of the road, don't you think it's a cop?
I do no, because they're not really white anymore. They're
Well, yeah, they cheat now. They try
they
and be,
cheat. They're all dark. They're dark blue. I was driving down to the fabulous indoor baseball in Centralia, Washington, all weekend long. Cops everywhere on I-5. My God, from Wild Waves all the way down to past to JBLM. I mean, just everywhere, nonstop.
What was a Friday afternoon? I mean, that's...
Well, I left Friday morning, and there was 4 on my way down. And then on the way back, a couple, 2 or 3 more. And then Saturday afternoon when we went down there, more again. I mean, they were just everywhere.
Do you do the Google Maps thing, though, where they warn you that a cop is ahead?
Waze, yeah, I have Waze, sure, I've got all that. I mean, I just, I'm speed a little. I don't go crazy. I mean, people drive like it's Formula One now anyway. So what I thought was fast back in the day is not fast anymore. So I just get over it and just you people can go as fast as you want. I don't care, because what I'm getting really annoyed at driving now is I'm going 80 and someone's on my bumper. I'm going 80, man. I'll get over for you. No problem.
No, because you want that guy ahead of you going 85 or 90
I
because
understand.
he'll be pulled over and you won't.
But do you feel like people are driving like it's, Fast and Furious now, or Formula One stock car racing? I mean, it's unbelievable out there.
Well, I don't feel that way in Seattle. You're lucky if you can go 25 miles an hour.
You think people drive slow here?
Lights. But down here in Arizona, once you get to Phoenix, you just you remind yourself, okay, I'm in Phoenix. It's a raceway out here. It's not a freeway.
So you think people drive? I do believe that people in Phoenix drive faster than people in Seattle. But people in Seattle drive pretty fast, I thought. But maybe.
Well, how can you with the traffic congestion?
I'm talking about on the freeway, Jim, not during the surface streets.
Yeah.
Freeway.
Well, I know. But
there's no lights on the freeway, right?
Try going 80 through Bellevue sometime. You got to do it in the middle of the night if you're going to do it.
On the freeway?
Yeah. Because you can't. It's bumper to bumper through Bellevue, both directions, all times of the day. So anyway, but no, everybody knows when you get to Arizona, you got to be just hitting the pedal, man.
They do. You drive fast down there. Yeah. It's in and out, man. I'm telling you. All right, Centralia indoor baseball. You said you'd never done it. We did it on Friday, or we talked about it on Friday. I'm just going to say this: not bad is success. I liked it. It's very different. For those who don't know, on a reason we taped a show on Friday and we didn't do it live is my son who plays like a winter baseball team. They were playing in a tournament, an indoor tournament, kind of a ramp up for their season, but a ramp up for a Little League season, right? Because he's 11, so he's got one more year of Little League. So we got to fit in a couple tournaments before Little League starts. And once Little League starts, It's done until we get till the end of it. So we don't want to travel to Arizona and San Diego. Well, let me strike that. I do want to travel but I don't want to pay the money that it takes to travel to Arizona and San Diego. I don't want to do it, and I don't want to play teams that have been playing 50 games, and here comes this team from Seattle hasn't played a game yet, and they get their teeth kicked in. So there's this indoor facility down in Centralia, and people know about it. If you're in like club baseball, club softball, you know about it. They have stuff there all the time. They do basketball games down there as well.
Is it in the same complex as all the outdoor fields are too?
Okay, so there's where the old school outdoor fields in Centralia are, like you get off of the 82 exit, right? And you go like one or two lights.
Harrison, I think.
Yeah, it's right there. It looks like a big airport hangar.
Okay.
And it's big enough to have, they had 3 fields in there.
They've got 3 fields in there?
3 fields, yeah.
Okay, is it all for kids that are 12 and under?
You know what? It's a good call. I want to say that the majority of kids there were 12, but something tells me, I think 12 was the cutoff. I think you're right. I think 12 was the cutoff, but I want to see if they had any older kids there. I don't think they did. I think 12 was the cutoff.
I mean, did they have fences, or did they have like a line on the wall for a home run?
There's a line on the wall, up the wall for a home run. So if you hit above that, it's a home run. Everything else is just a single. There's no doubles. There's the only time you can get a double is if someone like misplays the ball or it's bouncing off.
Oh, the outfields are pretty small.
Oh yeah, Jim. I wouldn't even. I'm gonna guess. What is it normally for like little league that age? Like,
I think it's 200 feet to the fence, isn't it?
200, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember, and I hate you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I mean, it's from second base to the wall in center field is probably like 40 feet. I mean, it's crazy. It's just, we had kids, I watched a kid. We had a kid on our team that threw out balls hit a single to left field, and that kid threw out the base runner.
Going to first.
Well,
he must have had a good arm, though.
He had a
good
kid must have been. Kid was a little slow, but it's just a game of singles because you're not going to get any extra base hits. I was trying to tell the coach. I said, I know it's not real baseball, but if we just wanted to really truly win, you put all your outfielders up against the wall. Because the crazy thing is you play it off the wall too. Like if it hits the netting in the ceiling or hits the netting above, it doesn't home run. You can catch it. It's an out. It's nuts.
Oh, and that's cool though.
I said, you should play everyone back there and then take the infield and put them like 10 or 15 steps back behind the baseline, almost to the warning track, to where so when the ball's hit, they can charge it. They're going to throw the guy out. Just have one first baseman, then have like a rover at second. Like, we'll throw everybody out. No one will ever get a hit on us.
Were there many pop-ups that hit the roof, or did you say
a ton of pop-ups that would hit the roof? They would hit the roof, and then your first baseman or the pitcher's trying to catch it, and then it hits the roof or the netting, and then falls down for a base hit. I saw 3 or 4 like base hits like that. So it's like the Tiger thing. Like when Tiger was doing the indoor golf thing the other day, we talked about it. You liked it, you loved it. I liked it. It was okay, but when Tiger kept saying, "No, this is real golf." People need to understand this is real golf. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not real golf. There's nothing real about it. It's fun, but it's not real. Like this baseball thing, it's not real baseball, not close to real baseball, but it was fun. It's a hitting clinic. It basically is glorified batting practice, and then the pitchers get to work on some stuff. But at least it was fun to be, running around and.
Well, yeah, when you told me that you were going to be playing in Centralia until I got the next text from you saying it was going to be indoors, I thought, well, how in the world do you do that? Because I went through 2 years of junior college baseball when you start the middle of February, and it's miserable for the most part. Baseball everybody knows that if you live in the Northwest.
Yeah.
And so I imagine the parents loved it. You didn't have to sit there and shiver and have a poncho and umbrellas and tents and heaters.
This group that puts it on, and I'm going to shout out Matt and his crew at Top Tier Sports is what it's called. They just first class, like really good with it. Like the organization was great, had everything updated. Communication was awesome. It was fun. It was nothing. I had never seen anything like it before. It was, it's not even turf they're really playing on. It is turf, but it's more like The carpet that used to be at the Kingdome. That's what they were playing on. And all the coaches were telling her, don't slide. Please don't slide, because if you slide, you're going to get a bunch of, you're going to get a bunch of rug burns. Please don't do it. What does my son do the first time he's rolling into third base? What does he do? Head first slide.
So has he got the old raspberries then?
Yeah, the idiot. Oh, I wanted to slide. Why?
Yeah.
You didn't even need to slide.
Was he safe?
Yeah, but there's no reason to slide.
Yeah.
But he just wants to slide.
They had umpires and everything?
No, they let the parents call balls and strikes from the stands.
Oh, shut up.
Yes, they had umpires.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
Yes,
they put the umpire behind the pitcher.
They did. They had umpires. It was good, and they were all great, and it was fun. It's a new step up, at least for my son and his group, right? Because now we're on the 50 feet from the mound, 70 feet base path. So it's no longer those infield singles happening. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So he's got what, 2 more years of Little League then?
1 more year.
This is
his last year of Little League starting soon. Yeah.
Wait, he's only 11 though.
I know, but his birthday's August 4th of this year, and it's the end of the month. Is the cutoff.
God, are you gonna get misty-eyed over that? I did. When Little League ended, I was like, oh shit, Little League's over?
Well, here's what I don't like about the rule of how Little League does it. It should just be, how old are you on January 1st of the year, right? How old are you January 1st, 2025? That's what your Little League age should be. He's 11, so he should have 2 more years. He should be able to play this year, and then when he's January 11th or 1st of 2026, he's 12. He should be able to play again. I don't know why.
When does he turn 12?
August 4th of this year.
And
so the Little League season, he can't.
Wait a minute. So he can't play in 2026 as a 12-year-old?
No, because he'll turn 13 that year.
But the Little League season is over before he turns 13.
You're asking me to just explain this to you. I don't know. I don't know why they do it this way. They just do. I'm going to assume.
It's not like you're trying to bend the rules either. He's going to be. I mean, 12 has always been the cutoff that I've known for Little League.
Somebody must violated some rule, or they must have their explanation why they do it this way, but that's how they do it.
Huh.
It's dumb.
Okay. All right. Stupid. Well, make the best of it, man.
I'm gonna make the best of it, Jim.
I can still remember renting Little League, and we played at Honeydew Elementary, and got so many good memories thinking about that, and the last district tournament that they had in West Seattle over there by Alki. God. Yep. I stopped my truck on the way out, the Ridgeline. I still had it back then too.
Yeah, you do.
And I looked back and I thought, damn, Little League is over.
That's fun. Yeah, it's gonna be. It will be. This will be a sad year to have it officially over. It's been a long journey. I've coached this team. Well, not the same guys, but since T-ball. So it's crazy.
You want me to go get Sky and try and shut her up and wonder why my wife's not controlling him?
I mean, it would be nice if eventually your wife would do something to help. Something around the house. Maybe text her. Is she still sleeping? I mean, it's 11:30, so she could still be in bed.
No, she's up.
Oh, she's
up
okay.
And moving.
Good.
Yeah.
What did you think of the games? What did you think of the wild card games this week? I mean, we touched on it a little earlier. Commanders and the Bucks. That was a fun game. But the other games are just dogs.
Yeah, it was disappointing, really. I guess some of it was expected. Buffalo. Let me get Sky here.
Okay, you go ahead. Jim Moore taking a pause from the show to get his dog, because whether it's River or Sky, one of them is making noise as it normally does during the show. This is why I enjoy doing the show live for all of you, because you get to experience, even when we tape the shows, the full Jim Moore experience. At some point you would say, hey, significant other, do something. Hey, you're back. That was quick.
Yeah. First I opened the door and Sky's already gone. And
there you go.
What did I think of the games? What did you think of the games?
You're out now. You're so distracted. You don't even want to talk about it. I just said the games are boring. I mean, I'll look. The divisional round games will be much more exciting. But here's the thing I was thinking about. watching them. And then we have the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast that's coming up on Mondays. So we'll have a few more weeks of that as we kind of wrap up the Seahawks season. Tim Booth, Curtis Crabtree. We taped it this morning because Tim had something to do at 11 o'clock today. We got into a discussion about DK Metcalf, and I started thinking about the playoffs and watching all the teams during the wild card rounds and now look ahead to the divisional rounds. Who's the best wide receiver left?
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. And what if they lose tonight? Then who's the best?
Terry McLaurin.
Okay. No. That's good. Terry McLaurin. That's a good guess. Okay.
Hey, did you see him with Scott Van Pelt last night?
I did not. Was he good?
He is tailor-made for being a broadcaster.
Oh, is he good? He's that good?
Oh, my God. He's candid. He's funny.
Good.
He's engaging.
Good.
And what a hell of a player.
Yeah. All right. I right when those games got over, because I'm getting older, and actually not because I'm getting older, I've been doing this since I was a kid because my dad did this. I went right to my recorded 60 Minutes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I watch it every Sunday. I love 60 Minutes. Can't get enough of it. Now, you can't call me old or curmudgeon because I've been watching it since I was a kid.
Is it still as good as it used to be?
I think so, but it's a real heartbreaking piece because they did the LA wildfires. And a central part of the story is, do you remember Jameer Calvin, a wide receiver for the Cougs?
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter about him.
His family and lost everything in the Altadena fire. And they talked to his dad, and they their whole family grew up on this block. They had 4 houses together. Yeah, it's awful. Awful.
God, there's so many sad stories down there. I saw a woman that had to leave her son because he was crippled, I think, and he couldn't. God. And he just told her to go ahead, Mom, and so she left. Oh. And then did you see the guy where the firefighters got his cat out of the house?
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
God, he was just, and we can all relate to that as a pet owner.
Yeah, just sad stuff. If you have time to go watch it, I would go watch it. Jameer's on there and his father and all that. So I did not. I went right away. Did not. I usually watch Van Pelt afterwards on Sunday nights. That's good to hear. Yeah. So Terry McLaurin, he would be good. Amon St. Brown for the Lions would be another one that would be left. Eagles got A.J. Brown. Ravens and Bills, not really.
Hey, what's going on with A.J. Brown anyway?
Well, he's upset. He's mad.
I know, but what's the book he's reading?
It's because he wanted to let the world know that he was pissed off and not interested in the game, because he says, well, I do it all the time. I read all the time. Jalen Hurts said after the game, I've never seen him do that before. I've never seen.
I would have shoved that book up his ass if I was one of his teammates.
Because he is upset that he's not getting the ball. We talked about this a few weeks ago with him. I just have no. This stuff, as someone who loves team sports, this just bothers me to the core. This guy is so upset that he's not getting the ball. He had 3 targets yesterday, 1 catch. He's so mad. I think he'd rather have a big game, 15 catches, 300 yards, and lose than what he did yesterday. I really believe that.
What is the book he's reading? Do you know? Is it
Inner Excellence? I think it's already on the #1 book on New York Times bestseller list. All because they showed it on TV last night.
Okay, so he just wants to show how upset he is, and I'm just going to read a book because why should I even pay attention? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
how
remember when
Michael How can a coach not grab that book out of his hands and just huck it?
Should have.
Yeah, I mean, what? And was he? Did he play?
Yeah, he played. They just come off the field. Yeah, he was playing.
Yeah, I mean that reminds me of Michael Bennett. Didn't he?
Yeah, read a book during the Pete Carroll's team meeting.
Yeah,
it's insubordination. It's
the worst kind.
It's awful.
It's the worst kind. I mean,
and there's going to be people that are going to defend him. And, he could have done. Listen, he's just upset because he thinks he could help the team win more. Okay, I understand that. The offense is struggling a little bit. He feels like he can help the team more and wants the ball. It's still your team first. You got to be team first. And this guy is just, every time I watch him, does not scream team first guy. And he just screams like, I just want the ball, and I'd rather put up great stats and not win. That he's jealous of Saquon Barkley. Listen, the formula for these guys is working. You run the ball, and you got a great defense.
Yeah, I think they were fortunate to run into a Green Bay team that wasn't the same team that Seattle saw. The Packers, when they came to Seattle, they were looking really good then, and then they struggled though the last few games, and they just didn't. I don't know what's going on with the Packers. They just
injuries killed them though in that game. He was down 3 wide receivers and down how many linemen? 2 linemen.
And then I didn't necessarily, not necessarily, I didn't agree with it at all. That kickoff, that call on the kickoff, if that was a Pac-12 or a college football game, that would have been targeting. The guy would have been thrown out of the game, and the ball would have been Green Bay's.
First thing I said to the people I'm watching it with, I go, and one of my buddies there is an Eagles fan. I said, hey, you're lucky. A, that was targeting, clear targeting, and 2, the Packers guy recovered the ball.
I know he
had
did.
The ball,
and he was down.
Yeah. So, and really, because you think about it, other than that, the Eagles didn't do anything.
No,
they did nothing in the game at all. It's like it was just that they got lucky on that and they scored, and then that's it. But they didn't. No,
I think whoever wins tonight and faces the Eagles, I think they have a good shot at upsetting them.
I agree with you. I just not a Hurts guy. I don't know.
Well, maybe he was rusty coming off the concussion.
Sure.
But yeah, that offense, that game sucked. Really,
it did.
Just wasn't much
it was
fun.
Awful. A couple buddies over watching. I'm like kind of falling asleep. I'm just like, I honestly wanted to switch over and watch golf.
Well, yeah,
I just wanted to watch golf because I was like, this game is so boring. I thought the Broncos game was going to be good. It got off to a great start. And then that game was awful. And then thank God I didn't have to watch because I was in Centralia, so I didn't have to watch the Chargers-Texans game. But
God, I don't know what happened with Herbert in that game. I mean, that's not the Justin Herbert we're used to seeing. Houston had a good pass rush, but still, he's such a good quarterback that he shouldn't be doing what he did that day.
So the A.J. Brown discussion in the Ground Puck Podcast, I never really got to this. Our whole discussion today, and we'll play it at 11, is around DK Metcalf. And my point of asking you all these wide receivers that are left in the playoffs, and I've been a big DK fan. Have been a big DK fan. I do like what he brings, but when we start getting to contracts and money, I've been a guy, well, let's try to work something out with him and get a deal done. And then I just thought about watching these games this week, and then when Curtis and Tim and I were talking, I feel like I've got to revisit maybe my feelings and stance on DK Metcalf. I don't know. I'm starting to lean that it's not worth paying him what he wants to get paid because we did this little exercise. Go back and think of all the past Super Bowl champions. Tell me the team that had a dominant wide receiver making a bunch of money. I'm going to save you the exercise.
I'm drawing a blank.
You're not going to find one. You're not going to find one. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't. All these teams that have won Super Bowls in the past, unless you're going to tell me Cooper Kupp doesn't make a ton of money. He's not a elite top end number 1 wide receiver just in terms of money. That's I'm basing it on. Okay? It just doesn't exist. And I think that the fact that it doesn't exist, why do you want to commit the amount of money to DK Metcalf if you're not committed to that style of play, right? Think about it. If you want to go back to running the ball and being physical, why do you want to pay a guy the amount of money that he's going to get paid? Is it worth it?
Well, they would counter by saying, well, coupled with that running game, you want to have the deep threat that DK provides.
Okay.
Because we need the play action and the explosives off of that. I think that's what they would say. But I'm with you on this. I'm going down that road with you, hand in hand, honestly, because what's he going to want? He's going into his last year. He's $31.8 million cap hit this year coming up. Is he worth paying? He's going to want $30 a year, isn't he?
Yeah. I'm going to get it to you in a second. Just tell you all the quarterbacks for some reason. It's loading slowly here, but The, St. Brown that we talked about before, he's a guy that's going to be making a ton of money. I'm going to go off like average salary, right? Justin Jefferson is at $35 million. Let's see if they win tonight. And again, he would be the lone remaining like elite wide receiver making a ton of money. CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown making $32 million. But again, this guy had 3 catches yesterday, 3 targets and 1 catch. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's at $30 million. Brandon Ayuk's at $30 million. Tyreek Hill bounce at $30 million. Jalen Waddle at $28 million. Devontae Adams with the Jets at 28. DJ Moore of the Bears at 27. Cooper Kupp, he's still alive at 26.7. Devonta Smith with the Eagles at 25. But again, you look at the Eagles. The Eagles' success this year is because they have a badass defense, perhaps the best offensive line in football, if not the best offensive line in football, and the best running back in football, or arguably, I guess, with Derrick Henry. You just start like Deebo Samuel making $23 million. You just go down this list of wide receivers and the money they make, Jim. Look at the Bills. The Bills have no wide receivers. None. No one to write home about.
No.
And look at the last Super Bowls. Kansas City hasn't had an elite wide receiver the last 2 years. They got Kelsey. The Rams, I mentioned this before, you go back to Cooper Kupp. Okay, you got to go back to the 21 Super Bowl with Brady. Mike Evans is not paid like elite money. Mike Evans clearly is an elite wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer, but that's...
Well, yeah, but you would get the argument, Puck, with Kansas City and Buffalo. Yeah, okay, sure. If you had Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you can get by with mediocre receivers. But with Geno Smith, you need better receivers to make him look better.
That's fair. Or a better quarterback and a better offensive line. Although with the Chiefs' case, they don't have that. They have arguably maybe the best quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
I would say that. Would you agree with this? I think you have to have one guy. If you have one elite wide receiver, then you can have some complementary guys around him. And I think for DK is, Jackson Smith-Njigba has one more year. He's eligible for the 5th-year option. This is what Tim and Curtis were explaining to me earlier. So after next season, when he completes his 3rd year, they can negotiate a new deal with him after his 3rd year. They don't have to do it because he's got that 5th-year option they can pick up. But you're going to have to make a call now, because if you feel that Smith-Njigba is the future of your team, do you want to sit there and tie up a bunch of money now in DK this offseason, knowing that you're going to have to pay JSN in the future? I mean, that's a salary cap stuff, and you and I, we're not smart enough to do salary cap stuff. Let's just go to black and white.
What makes you think I'm not smart enough to do it?
Because I've worked with you for a long time, so I think I'm fair to say that.
Okay.
Would you agree?
You're right.
Yeah. Would you rather spend money on DK Metcalf or spend your money on an offensive line?
Well, that's an easy one for me, and it should be an easy one for Seahawk fans, shouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it should be. No, you make a good point with that. And DK didn't have that great a year this year by his standards. But then, if you don't have DK on your team and Tyler looks like he's on his way out, then what do you got? You got JSN, you got Bobo. Who else am I missing?
You got JSN, Bobo. I mean, I think what we're seeing now in the NFL, though, is it's almost like the running backs position, where these wide receivers coming out are a dime a dozen now. There's so many good wide receivers that come out every year that you can almost draft these guys like Moneyball now. And a guy that you can find later in the round, 3rd round, 4th round, you can plug and play these guys. They can play right away. I was looking at a list, Jim. I said this to Tim and Curtis. I'm not Rob Rang. I'm not Mel Kiper. None of us are. You and I are just two dolts that sit around and watch college football on Saturdays, okay? So I came across a list, a draft link or something, and it was ranking the top wide receivers in this year's class. And I looked at the list, and I saw a name at number 35. And I thought, if this guy's the 35th best wide receiver, according to this website, then I think the wide receiver class is going to be pretty good this year. That 35th ranked wide receiver was Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams is 35th?
Think about that. Kyle Williams.
Is it because of his size?
Well, maybe, but that's a damn good wide receiver.
Are there 34 receivers in the country better than Kyle Williams?
And then the other name that was on this list that first I paused and say they really think he's the 24th. I think it was the 24th or 25th best wide receiver. Do you remember the kid from San Jose State, the Nash kid?
Yes.
That kid.
He had like 15 catches against us. Didn't he lead the country in number of receptions and yards?
He should have won the Biletnikoff, some people argue, over Hunter.
And he's 24?
Again, just according to this site.
No, I know, but so the measurables, the kid probably runs, 4.7 40 or something, and whatever. Doesn't have what they're looking for at the combine.
Yeah.
Huh.
Think about somebody on the chat brought this up. Look at Jamar Chase. Okay, well, perfect example. Jamar Chase, elite wide receiver. Where are the Bengals? Didn't make the postseason. Why didn't they make the postseason? Well, there's a lot of factors. One, that the defense sucked, offensive line issues, and then they couldn't run the ball. They could pass the ball all over the place.
It hadn't even occurred to me because it always seems like you want to have that number one elite premier receiver on your team. And if you don't have that, then you're compromised and you're never going to get anywhere.
But you're not. Look at these teams. That's what I'm trying to say. Look at these teams that are Super Bowl. The Bills are a Super Bowl favorite, right? Yesterday, Curtis Samuel led them in yards. Khalil Shakir, 6 catches, 61 yards. They have a rookie in Keon Coleman. I mean, they have 2 tight ends in Kincaid and Dustin and Knox. Okay, that's the Bills. And they got Josh Allen. Okay, how about the Ravens? What do the Ravens have this year? Let's just go to the regular season. I was looking at the postseason. Go to the regular season. Zay Flowers, okay. I'll go look at where Zay Flowers has been paid, but Rashad Bateman after that, then it's Mark Andrews. I mean, it's not. These playoffs are not littered with these guys making the most money. And DK Metcalf's going to be a guy that's going to want a ton of money.
So you think they should trade him?
Tim brought it. I mean, Tim was just offering this up, but I would lean towards Tim's point just because the free agent class this year, and it's not a strong class in terms of free agents, because the class is not big. Yeah, I think that it would be something that I think you've got to look at of whether or not you move him, if you can.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. The only thing is that in the NFL, it always seems like whatever you're trading, what you think is a marquee piece, and you're getting what in return, it always seems like it's not that great. I remember when Marshawn, when they were talking about, maybe possibly trading him and oh yeah, they get a 4th rounder for him or whatever. I'm like, really? So what could you get for DK? I mean,
I don't.
Could you get a 1st rounder? See, I would question whether you could even get a 1st rounder for him. I would think you would. I mean, when not CD Lamb, but Devontae Adams, when the Jets got him, God, they gave up all kinds of stuff, but.
This is the crew here. I mean, this is what the free agent class is like for wide receivers. And this was Tim's point about looking ahead to if they were to do something with DK. Diggs, T. Higgins. I mean, Higgins is good. He's at 26. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper.
I love Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, but
I mean, so it would be something that I think you got to take a strong look at. Especially if you want to change. I mean, I don't know how far they want to swing the pendulum here to be where they were at to what kind of new offense they want. I would just ask people if Mike McDonald has input on this one and he wants, ground and pound and he wants a more physical football team, where does he want his resources allocated to? He'd rather have a better offensive line. Now, part of that's not just spending money on these guys, but it's also drafting better. But it's a combination of both, right? You draft better and then you sign a guy in free agency. But do you want to, in 2 years, locking up $30+ million to 2 wide receivers when you want to be more of a run-first physical football team? That doesn't make much sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And like you said, if you want to ground and pound, you're not going to be grounding and pounding if you don't have a better O-line.
No, you're not. You're not going to be grounding and pounding. Well, it'll be an off-season. I mean, that will be a massive discussion all off-season long about what they want to do and what they're going to do with him. And and all that. I thought his sideline stuff was fine. He had the one incident, right, during the game, but you're always kind of waiting for it to happen, that explosion. And I just think it's interesting to look at all the teams that are still around and then look at the past Super Bowl champions. And really, you have not had number one highly paid wide receiver win a Super Bowl. Not one. And look at the best example is this organization. You went to back-to-back Super Bowls with the three amigos who were, according to some, pedestrian. But they were, as a trio, they were great together.
Yeah, I think Mike McDonald's going to land on your side of thinking here with that. If he's going to be the one along with Schneider, what should they do with DK Metcalf? Well, that McDonald's going to say, hey, man, I know he offers a lot, but we can't really function the way I want to function if we continue to go with him as opposed to shoring up this offensive line and having this physical style that I want.
Okay, who are you pulling? Is America pulling for Lions, Bills? Is that what we want to see? That's what I want to see.
Well, yeah, as always, though, I'll be whoever I'm betting on. I'll be pulling for that.
I know, but like when you were watching the Bills game yesterday and they're going to the end zone, did you see all those tubbos, those fat just Buffalo fans with their shirts off and they had like a fur coat, a Bills fur coat on? Just
yeah,
awesome.
And I love what they do, the tailgating, where they crash the tables, like WWE, and then don't you still all these years later? I mean, you feel bad for Lions fans, but you maybe feel worse for Bills fans. What was it, 4 Super Bowls in a row they went to and finished second?
Yes. Can you imagine being a fan of that? Of watching that for 4 straight years and not winning it? Yeah, I just want I want them both to go, and then at that point, I would probably be, I don't know who I'd be rooting for. I'd probably be rooting more for the Lions because of Dan Campbell, but I'd come away from the game going, I'm going to be happy for whatever fan base wins it.
Well, plus, on the surface, think about the Bills facing the Lions. It should be a hell of a game.
Oh, physical. That'd be how football is supposed to be played. All right? That's how it's supposed to be played.
I was surprised that the Bills were like a pick'em or only a 1-point favorite against the Ravens. And then
it's changed.
I'd already forgotten that the Ravens handled the Bills pretty easily during the regular season.
But I think
beat them 35-10.
But last year, aren't the Ravens favored?
Are they favored now?
Yeah, Baltimore's favored by 1 on the road.
Okay. So it's going back and forth then.
Lions are 8.5-point favorites. Chiefs are 7.5 over the Texans. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, this is usually, I remember, of course, when the Seahawks would go to the Super Bowl, I mean, it's the easiest route, the best route, obviously, is, having the 2 home games, and then you're in. And you're facing, I mean, look at this. The Commanders, though, how about if you're the Lions, if I'm a Lions fan, I'm thinking, okay, this is great. We've had a bye. We got the number 1 seed. But we got to face this red-hot Commanders team that's won, 5 games in a row on the last play of the game? It's insane. They've got luck on their side. They got Jaden Daniels.
But wouldn't you rather face these guys than face the winner between the Rams and the Vikings?
Well, I don't know, Puck. And I say that just because the Commanders, that's got to be the best 6th seed in NFL history because they were 12-5. I mean, 12-5 as a 6th seed, now 13-5, and they're coming to Detroit feeling like, hey, man, we can do anything. And even if we're behind in the 4th quarter, we can come back and beat these guys. And the Lions, if it's a close game, they're going to be going, oh man, we got that Detroit Lions history that we're trying to reverse here, and it might get a little tight around the collar. So I kind of like. Well, part of it is I'm siding with Daniels because I got him in a playoff football pool.
He's fun. I never thought that he would be this good. Never in a million years thought he'd be this good.
We handled ASU when he was down there that one game.
Never thought he'd be this good. Never thought he'd be that good at LSU, and then he was great and wins the Heisman. Then he's gone to the NFL and he's been sensational.
He was great last night.
Yeah,
he was really good last night.
Did you see the news? Speaking of more football and betting, did you see how upset some in the betting world were over Saquon Barkley?
No, what happened? Because there was a prop bet?
Parlay. The third most popular leg of all parlays yesterday or this weekend in the NFL was Saquon Barkley scoring a touchdown.
And
did you watch the end, what Saquon Barkley did in the game?
No.
His last carry, he busts through the line against the Packers, and he's going to score a 70-yard touchdown, 60 yards. And he slid down to end the game.
Oh.
He was going to easily score. Easily.
Wait a minute. That was the last play of the game.
That was the last play of the game because then they take a knee to end it. He was, Jim, he was easily going to score.
And so they were already ahead by what? 12 points?
Yeah, it was 22 to 10. He's going to slide. He slides down, takes a knee, game over. And it's nothing's going to even if he scores. I mean, he could fumble, they return it, onside kick, all that stuff. But he did the smart play, but did not do the smart play among bettors.
But that would have put him up 19. It wouldn't have mattered.
But what if he got stripped? Let's just he's probably thinking if I get stripped somehow, fumble. I don't. I'm just telling you what he did.
Were there conspiracy theorists out there thinking
he probably bet a lot that I don't know.
Vegas paid him off.
But the third most popular leg of all parlays was him scoring a touchdown. Did not score, was going to score. Looked like he was easily going to score on that last touch, and then he just slides down. And can you imagine sitting in there if you're in Vegas and you're one of these guys that has the ticket, and you're like, yeah, it's going to hit. And you're like, you son of a bitch.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't have one of those tickets.
Man.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the worst bad beats ever.
Oh, I'm going to be curious if Van Pelt puts that on his bad beats. Yeah, that's a bad beat, man.
Yeah, that's an all-timer. Especially, it makes more sense when you're only up, less than a touchdown. You don't want to give the ball back and you can run the clock out. But
correct.
In that situation, when you're already up 12 and you're going to go ahead 19, there's no way they're going to come back with that much time left. So yeah, strange.
Did you end up covering on your Cougs Zags bet?
I did.
Yes, because it was 17, right? They only lost by 13.
17 and a half when I bet it.
Okay.
I just thought that was too many points.
It turned out to be right.
Yeah, barely though. It took Cal Meese to steal an inbounds pass, and
Cal Meese had the Cougs in the points.
Yeah. No, we held our own for a half, and then we ran out of gas, man. We don't have enough players.
No, they're down four. They're down 4 guys, man, including their best player. And
there's 2 kids who shouldn't be playing at all under normal circumstances.
Be careful.
No. It's no offense to them, and they're trying their hardest and all that, but they shouldn't be playing, or they wouldn't be if we didn't have so many injuries.
I know one of them. Who's the other one? Garrett's is one. The other one is who?
Why not? The Idaho player.
Oh, why not?
Yeah. But if they don't play, then we're down to 6.
Oh yeah, they've got to play. It's imperative. It's imperative that they play, sir.
God, it's just we have. I hate to always oh God, you're always whining. Well, when it comes to the Cougs, I'm gonna whine, especially.
You're a whiner.
This could have been a tournament team. If Coward was okay, and then there's that other kid, Rivaveries or whatever the hell, I forget.
They had all the pieces in place. It sucks, and they're probably not getting, unless they go on a tear. They've got to beat Santa Clara. They've got to beat Gonzaga. They cannot have really very few losses. In fact, they may not be able to lose another game, but they have to beat Santa Clara and they have to beat Gonzaga in the rematch. And then, the Pacific loss is just a crusher. It's just an absolute crusher to their chances.
Did you see what the Beavs did the Pacific Saturday?
I did see it. Yeah, they won by a little. That's right. Just won by
and
just a little bit.
That was in Stockton.
Yeah, well, they did. The kid that averaged 11 points, what did he finish with?
I don't know. I was like, come on, man. The Beavs went there on the road and they beat them by 30.
Yeah.
And we couldn't beat them in Pullman. No. That was a weird
big decision coming up on Wednesday. I know you've been following it because you text me nonstop about your opinions and thoughts on Roki Sasaki. He can sign on Wednesday. He's the drop dead date is 10 days from now where he can go. Everyone assumes he's going to the Dodgers, but the Mariners have put a lot of eggs in the old Roki Sasaki basket, and it looks like they once again will strike out on a big Japanese star. And every time there's a Japanese star, it's always the Mariners, because there's so the proximity and the Japanese culture here. They've got to be one of the leading contenders. And we don't ever get any of them except we got one of them, and that's it.
Yeah. I know we do talk about that proximity like it's St. Paul to Minneapolis or something.
It's a puddle jumper from Japan, from Tokyo to Seattle.
And then we got to throw in that they probably, if he's asking for any money at all, they won't be in.
Well, no, but this is the bonus pool money. They've got more bonus pool money than the Dodgers. Last time I checked, I mean they're at the top of how much money they can spend on this guy. And then on top of that, he comes in making the minimum. He makes like $780,000 or $90,000.
Well, wait a minute. So they can, with their bonus pool money, they can give him more money than the Dodgers?
Yes.
And he wouldn't come here?
Well, he hasn't made his decision yet, but most people feel he's going to go to the Dodgers because it's L.A., where they try to win every year. Opposed to this team.
Wouldn't you want to be the one player, though, that made the difference?
God, you're going to write a book, and your book's going to be titled, Wouldn't you want to be the one person that is the one that changes everything?
Yeah. Am I wrong about that? That's the Coug in me, man. I'd rather be somebody who did something for the first time than be somebody who did it for the 18th time.
What if he's there? What if he decides and says, "Well, I'll go to Seattle, but then I'm stuck there for 10 years and we don't win anything. I'd like to go someplace where I know we're going to win." Maybe he just values winning more.
Yeah. Hey, maybe you can answer this question since we're talking about the Mariners. I was drawing a blank on who would be the starting third baseman right now if they open the season tomorrow.
Not on the roster.
Because I already know that they're toying with the more Bliss thing at second.
I don't think it's on the roster.
No, isn't there anybody? Isn't there like a Cole Young or Cole Jones or somebody?
I want to say Ben Williamson. Jim, he's not on it's not on the roster.
And maybe that's why I couldn't think of who the third baseman would be.
The third base, if they were to start today, the third baseman would probably be Dylan Moore. If they started today, Dylan Moore.
Let Bliss be the full-time second baseman.
And Ryan Bliss would be the second baseman.
Okay.
Championship.
Okay.
Where are you going to watch the parade if that's the case? If they roll that out there, where's the best viewing spot for the parade for the Mariners?
It's so funny to me, and it's funny to you too, I think, is that, we're concerned about third base, second base, and first base. Why don't we talk about shortstop? Because
he's a nice guy, and he's got a dogs, and people like him. That's why.
What? We're good at shortstop. Well, no, you're not.
They're not good at shortstop.
No.
But we've been saying that for 5 years that they're not good there. But whatever. I mean, you can be a nice guy.
You're good in the outfield. I'm okay with your outfield.
It's serviceable, but I'm with you. And again, everybody likes J.P. Crawford. No one's saying they don't like him. This is not about liking the person. Can you do better at the shortstop position? Yes, you can. You just can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons that your offense struggles every year, isn't it? And if they trot him out there as the leadoff guy again, come on. I'm fine with him hitting ninth. Yeah. Ninth, okay. That's good. But he can't be your leadoff hitter anymore.
I don't know what they're going to do, man. It's just...
Well, they will do something at third.
Really? What? What are they going to do?
Sign Bregman. I don't know.
I mean, the most depressing show last week is the one I did with Divish, and I'm like, God, it seems like they really made Carlos Santana their one big move, and he's like, well, yeah, because they don't have any money.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about last week. I can't believe they're going into this with $15 million.
It's I don't know, man.
They will do something though. But right now, what is it? Is it January 12th?
We are January 13th.
Okay, so we're 1 month away now.
We are 1 month away from the old pitchers and catchers reporting, and they still have done nothing to improve this baseball team. Zippo. Not one thing have they done with 30 days to go to improve the team.
So they're kind of maybe going to try and sell the fact that when Edgar and Dan Wilson came on board that they were 21-13 the rest of the year, and the simplified batting approach is going to, over the course of 162 games, will make a difference.
And we get a full year. And now what you guys don't understand, thank you for the question, Ryan. What you don't understand is now we've also now got a full year of Randy Arozarena and Victor Robles. So we're looking at it as we augment the roster. We look at the additions of Arozarena and Robles as not just what we did at the deadline, but we look at that as also an off-season addition because we've had him internally all off-season with us into spring training. We really look at those two as like free agent additions as well. That's how Dipoto will spend it.
God.
He's good.
It's amazing how, it used to just be, sports talk show guys and sports writers that would get real snarky and sarcastic about the Mariners. Now it's everybody. The entire fan base is just sarcastic about the Mariners.
Before you go, and the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree is coming up here momentarily. I want to share something with you. What is your greatest fear? Do you have a fear? What's one of your greatest fears?
Oh, probably heights, maybe.
You have a fear of heights?
Yeah.
Me too. I want to show you something.
Claustrophobia is a big one, too.
Ooh, claustrophobia. Okay. Yeah. Heights for me. I'm with you on heights. I don't like heights.
I sometimes just stand there like at a real high spot, and then I wonder why. What is it that something tells you not to jump or not to do something? Like what if that something just misfires and just says, "Hey, Jim, just go ahead and jump."
Hey, do you need me to call you after the show?
No, have you ever thought that when you're like standing on a ledge or something? Like we're gonna go see the Grand Canyon on our way back to Bend.
I have not thought about jumping off, Jim.
No. I've never thought about jumping off, but what is it in your brain that tells you? What if it's like the synapses aren't firing correctly at that one moment in time?
Hey, will you wink? Are you okay? Blink. Okay,
yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay, if you and I don't like heights, there was this guy who is a professional. You know what a slackline is?
No.
It's like the little thin line. You see them like across trees. They put them across trees and they walk. It's like a trapeze almost in a way without the contraption to hold you up. Slackline. People do this all the time. They're called
without nets underneath.
Yeah, this guy did this slackline between two buildings in Dubai. Look at this. Oh. He's Estonian. What's his name? Jean Roos. Look at this guy walking across this slack line between two Dubai buildings.
Big deal, though. If he falls, that thing's going to rescue him.
The main challenge is the technical one, the setup itself.
I understand, Jim. It's going to catch him, but I don't care. Look at this, what he's walking across. Yes, okay, fine. He's wearing a harness that if he falls, it's going to catch him. But still, come on.
The main challenge is the technical one, the setup itself.
Main challenge is I would wet myself, yawn.
They look similar.
Yeah, I'd be impressed if he didn't have the thing that was going to save
so
him.
that doesn't impress you?
Not really. I mean, he's got a net.
He doesn't have a net. He's attached to a harness. There's no net there.
No, I know he doesn't have a net, but he has a figurative net because
what
if
it
he
breaks?
falls,
what if it
he's
snaps?
just going to dangle like a bungee jumper, and then somehow they'll reel him in. What? He does.
Okay. I watched that this morning and I got physically ill. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day in the sunshine in Arizona, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay, Puck. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. There he is, Jim Moore. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with us. All brought to you by a clean streak. Big thanks to Brian Turner for supporting the Jim Moore visits every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The Monday one is always a long one. Wednesdays and Fridays, the half an hour nature of those visits. All right, we switch gears. We talk a little bit more football as we did in the first portion of the show. Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree. As I mentioned before, had to tape this early this morning because Tim had stuff to do. He was very busy. He's got something coming down the pipeline, I think, at Seattle Times and SeattleTimes.com. So be sure to check it out when that comes down. So we talked a lot about DK Metcalf on the latest edition of the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Welcome in. It's the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast. We get to sit down with Tim Booth of the Seattle Times, who covers not just the Seahawks, but he covers everything over there at the Seattle Times. He thought his life was going to be easier once he switched over from the Associated Press to the Seattle Times, but I feel like he's doing just as much work. So Tim is with us, also Curtis Crabtree, who covers everything as well, but also sits down and covers the Seahawks, and that's why we have these guys on. Curtis Crabtree, of course, over there at Fox 13. All right, no game to recap, and I thought we would do this here now on the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast, which is, of course, brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Big thanks to Georgetown Brewery. Go check out their new fantastic domestic style lager called the Tavern Beer. You can get it at Georgetown Brewery. Only there, available in growlers. You can also get a pint there, and available in all of your local watering holes. Ask if your watering hole doesn't have it. Say, hey, can you please pour Tavern Beer from Georgetown Brewery? GeorgetownBeer.com is the website. All right. So we'll do bigger picture stuff here, right? Now we're into the offseason. We offensive coordinator search. We can get into a little bit of a draft as we kind of, the next few weeks kind of wrap up the season. Did they learn anything from what happened in the wild card rounds so they can look ahead now to next season? Let's just start here. Tim, and I'll go with you first. Curtis, just go right after him to answer this question. Besides offensive coordinator, because that's the most immediate thing that they need to hire right now and do now. What's the biggest question mark getting into the offseason, Tim?
That's a good question. I think you feel pretty comfortable that Geno is back in some capacity. So let's put that aside and assume that you have your quarterback in place for next season. I think at that point it's how you upgrade the offensive line at end of the day, whether that's draft, whether you are deciding to go into the free agent pool and try and figure something out that way. I think the number one thing is how you try and upgrade that unit, because look at, defensively, as long as you come to some sort of resolution with Ernest Jones, you're kind of in some ways set over there. Like you don't have a whole lot of question marks on the defensive side. Skill position wise, I mean, obviously there's the question about DK and what the future is with him. And then obviously our expectation that Tyler is not coming back, at least on the deal that he's currently on. So other than those couple of things, I think that the most glaring thing is offensive line, as long as you are planning to bring Geno back and have him be your starting quarterback.
And I'll say it's the DK discussion and decision. Just because the top of the wide receiver market is north of $30 million a season right now. There's about 5 or 6 guys that are there at that part of the contract spectrum, and that's where DK Metcalf is almost certainly going to want to be. And his stats given over 6 seasons has proven that he probably deserves to be in that conversation. So you need to figure out if that's something you are okay with handling over the next long term here, when you consider that Jackson Smith and Jigba is also going to eventually be up for a contract within the next couple of years as well. And if you think that works together for the long term, I think either path, there's logic behind. You can tell me there's a logical stance behind either one of them. It's just for their vision of what they want to be as a football team going forward. I think that's a pretty massive decision that they need to make of whether they want to commit to DK Metcalf longer than the 6 years he's already been here and then one more year left on his contract.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think when you poll most Seahawks fans, Curtis, and go on, answer this one first. When you poll most Seahawks fans, I wonder what they would say about the tenure of DK Metcalf. Massive success, a success, average, a little disappointing. Because how do you think that they would answer that? His numbers would back up. I mean, there was something that they flashed. It was either the last game or maybe it was during the wild card weekends. He's one of the only wide receivers in the first 6 years of his careers that I think it was a certain amount of yards in touchdowns or receptions. I mean, he's, and you touched on it. You based on his stats what he's compared to some of these other guys. He's been in the upper echelon. He hasn't had these massive, like, just dominating seasons, but in the course of his career to start, he's very comparable to many. How do you think fans would answer that, though, that question?
I'm not sure. And one thing I want to add to it is that I've always found it interesting because I don't know that a wide receiver necessarily has been, like, the thing that's gotten you a Super Bowl either. Like, there's Justin Jefferson hasn't been able to get there. Calvin Johnson never did. You go through the lengths of really good receivers in the NFL, and the closest I can think of to carrying their team to a Super Bowl in recent memory was Julio Jones, and they, were able to fell short in the Atlanta Super Bowl against New England. I think that was one of those types of seasons, and so you have to have good receivers, don't get me wrong, but does the true number one guy carry you to the Super Bowl in quite the same way? I don't know that they do. When it comes to DK's first, 6 years, I don't know that fans necessarily understand just how good DK Metcalf has been with the Seahawks over his first 6 seasons. The numbers are absolutely there for the long term. So are the number of penalties that people are going to have stick in the back of their mind that, personal fouls and unsportsmanlike conducts and stuff that are going to come to mind every time the next one of those happens. So it's interesting what the conversation is with DK because, purely on what he's done, there's no reason you wouldn't think that an extension for him would be wholly appropriate and necessary. And I could still, like I said, you could convince me that if you want to use that $30+ million a year in cap space in a different way and use, sign another receiver or two in the draft, commit to Jackson Smith and Jigba as your receiver you're going to pay for the long term. I think there's a logic behind that path as well. So, it'll be really curious to see how that kind of falls. But DK has been super productive through his 6 years and wholly deserves the credit for the player he's been.
Tim, he's got me going down a rabbit hole right now. I'm so distracted. I'm looking at past Super Bowl champions, and I mean, Curtis, to his point, Tim, he's right. Like I'm now to the Tampa Bay, Super Bowl over Kansas City, which they won 31-9. Again, no dominant wide receiver. Unless, hold on, let me backtrack with Kansas City last 2 years. Are we considering Kelsey a dominant wide receiver? I mean, obviously he's a tight end, so we have to take him out of it.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp.
Not anywhere near the top of the tight end, the receiver pay scale. So
no, you're
I
right.
Consider him the same way.
Cooper Kupp, no, we don't. Not in terms of money, right?
No, and at that point of his career, he was still relatively early in his career. I mean, it's an interesting conversation. So we all have text threads, right? We all have our threads with our friends and whatever. And so take this with a grain of salt because these are a bunch of dumbasses that I grew up with in Ellensburg. But so they're not really highly educated, and I really hope they all see this. And
This is a shot at people from Ellensburg, and I'm not from there, and I don't want to stand for it. I don't like.
And I am, so I'm allowed to say it. But so I have this one text thread that I have to actually mute during Seahawks games because all these guys talk about during the game is what's happening. But if you were to poll these 7 people, you would think DK Metcalf is the worst selection the Seahawks have ever made. that he has completely failed to live up to the standard that everyone expected for him when he was taken as a late second round pick by the Seahawks in 2019. He is, I don't want to use the term polarizing, but to me, he has as wide of a variance of reactions from fans that I can remember seeing from a guy who objectively standing back from it in my perspective, I think has been one of the better players that they have had on their roster for the last, 6 years now.
Yeah.
It's to the point that you made about the stat. I think it was 900 yards and I think 6 touchdowns in his first 6 seasons, and Randy Moss is the only other one.
That's right.
So you're putting him in company with a guy who's a Hall of Famer, and that's whether you view DK's career as eventually having that kind of trajectory. What he's done his first 6 years is equivalent to what Randy Moss did. So take that for what it is. I think in general, the way that probably Curtis and I and you, Puck, view it is that he has been one of the great stories that they've had over the last 6 years, that he has produced at a level that is among the better receivers in the league, not elite, but among the better receivers in the league. But if you were to ask fans, I think a lot of fans would probably say he hasn't lived up to the hopes, maybe not the expectations, but the hopes of what he could be for this team.
I think here's how I'd answer this, Curtis. I would say he's been very good. I don't think he's been great. And I don't know if that's a fault of his or it's the offense that's been called for him, the quarterback play. I don't know. I guess here's how I would say this, and then I'll shut up. I look at him, and he gets off the bus. He's in warm-ups, and I say to myself, how does anyone defend this guy? How does anyone do it? Why is he not dominant in the red zone like future Hall of Famer Mike Evans? He's bigger than Mike Evans. He's more athletic than Mike Evans. He's everything. And I think so. I don't think he is, based on the physical attributes that he brings to the field. I'm not sure he's reached what I thought he was going to reach as a player.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I don't think he's like the dominant number one, receiver in the NFL. Like, kind of like the quarterback discussion where there might be 4 of that top tier of quarterback guys. I don't know that DK is in the elite tier of 5 or 6 wide receivers that, would probably make up that group, but he's pretty close to it. He's, trailing a step behind it or so. And the production has certainly been there on the aggregate over 6 seasons to say that he's been very, very good. As Tim mentioned, a second-round draft pick. This is not somebody that you're taking round 1, third pick overall, and expecting to have the career that he's had. He's wholly outpaced his production for the draft spot he was in for sure. You wholly take that and run with it, and he's been terrific for them in that regard. And you could still look at it and say, there's probably more there that you could have gotten out of him through these 6 years too, to where maybe he is closer to that top elite tier wide receiver conversation than I think he currently is.
Yeah, it's I have got, as you guys are talking, I'm just going back through the Super Bowls, just looking at box scores and wide receivers. We mentioned Mike Evans. I can go probably to Mike Evans, and he's still not one of the highest paid wide receivers in the league, not even close. But Mike Evans would be the one, I guess, true, like dominant number one wide receiver that I think if we all were having a discussion, that has won a Super Bowl back in 21. I mean, you start going through some of these box scores, and you're just like, and you don't see these guys that are the highest paid at the wide receiver position. You just don't. And Curtis, you brought this up earlier. If you are now wanting to transition again, right, and this is kind of old, again, it's like a Pete Carroll offense. If you want to get back to hard-nosed football and running the ball, does it make sense to sit there and tie up so much money in DK Metcalf, and then eventually you're going to have to do the same thing here with Jackson Smith and Jigba coming up very soon?
Yeah, that's the discussion, and why I think it's a real question that they need to answer for themselves. Because you could wholly, completely say that, yeah, you pay DK Metcalf, we commit to that, but then you might need to make a decision with Jackson in a couple years, because having 2 receivers making that kind of money on a team where you can't build an offensive line and can't run the football the way you want to is, potentially problematic from a contract standpoint. So that's the pickle you might find yourself being in if you get, a couple more years down the road here and trying to make that all work for the long term.
Because we have, I just want to make sure I read the contract. He's signed JSN next season in 26, but heading into 26 is when that's when they're going to sit there and want to negotiate a new deal for him.
Well, and as a first round pick, he'll have that 5th year option
right
available too. So that pushes it out an extra year from the rest of a draft class.
So 28 is when he's a true free agent.
Yeah, but that conversation does come down the road, and Tim, it's after the first 3 years you become eligible for a contract extension, right?
Yes.
So that's you can't talk extension until you're 3 years in, and so after next season, then you're going to be up to that point for Jackson.
Yeah, so after next season, they can start talking contract extension for him.
Correct.
Yeah, because of the 5th year option, they have some leverage, and you probably don't have to right away, but it's coming.
Well, and Tim, one thing at least I've noticed in watching, we all watch it. We watch college football, and then these guys who play wide receiver in college come to the NFL. It seems like more than ever that these guys are plug and play like right away. That it's become almost in a way you take them in the first round opposed to running backs, but almost like the running back situation where you find guys and it's like Moneyball now with some of these wide receivers, like how we've done it with running backs.
Yeah. Curtis brought this up, I think, last week. Like, you can go find a good wide receiver in the 3rd round. Like, that's not a hard thing to find anymore with the way college offenses have become and the skills that those guys are bringing in, right away to be. I mean, Jesus, Puka Nacua is the greatest, recent example of a guy who he was a 5th rounder or 6th rounder, whenever he was taken. Like, these guys are as, we talk about the advancement of guys being ready for the pros, whether it's the NBA, whether it's, Major League Baseball, the guys that are fast tracked through the farm system and able to come up and play at, 19, 20, 21. Think of Julio, think of Jackson Merrill, think of those kind of guys. The NFL, it's wide receivers now. Like that's the position that has become as plug and play as you can find. Maybe defensive back a little bit too. But a lot of times, like elite pass rushers, they need a little bit of time to develop. Interior defensive linemen, like Byron Murphy was great this year. I think he's going to be really good in a couple of years. Offensive line, we've seen the issues there. It's kind of rare to find a guy who's immediately ready to come in and handle a position like left tackle or center or whatever immediately coming out of college. You can find those, but those are guys who end up becoming all pros. Wide receiver and running back, you can throw them in there and they can do the job. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of back to what Curtis was saying. Do you pay $30+ million a year for a guy who, one, might not fit perfectly in the offensive system that you want to take going forward? And that's where the offensive coordinator conversation, I think, really comes into play is who's your OC going to be? What's their philosophy? How does that mesh with what Mike McDonald wants? And where's the priority of a receiver there? And then two, do you want to pay $30+ million for a guy who's probably not your number one option,
right,
moving forward? A guy who definitely became your number two this year because Jackson Smith and Jake became your clear number one guy, and the connection that he had with Geno Smith. So, does DK being on the field probably make them a better team? Yes. Does he make them a better team at $32-33 million a year when those resources can be used elsewhere? And maybe you can find a guy maybe you can find Kyle Williams, for example, in the 5th or 6th round, and sure, he comes in and can be that guy. It's a really interesting cost benefit analysis that they have with him for this offseason.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to sit here and I'm no Rob Rang, okay? And I don't know the exact health and how the NFL views the wide receiver class. I would say this, just based on an idiot that sits here and watches college football on Saturdays, and I'm looking at one ranking here that has, you brought him up. I was going to use a different player, but I'm going to use Kyle Williams as an example. And this list has Kyle Williams ranked as the 34th best wide receiver. If that's the 34th best wide receiver, then I would say it's probably a good wide receiver class. Because the other guy I was thinking about, they have, I don't know if you've seen him play, Nick Nash from San Jose State. He's ranked 25th according to the site. If he's 25th, then I would venture to say that it's probably a good class. Now, again, I watched Nick Nash twice. One of them was against the Cougs, and their secondary is terrible. So maybe that had something to do with it. But Nick Nash looks like, when you see him, he looks like an NFL wide receiver. Yeah, I think, Tim, to your point, I mean, you can the amount of money you could save to fix a glaring problem on this football team in which it's almost they have gone away from what made them successful early on, and what made them successful early on was strong lines, strong defensive line, strong offensive line. And if you can allocate those resources, Tim, right back to that offensive line, it's almost like if you give the quarterback more time to throw the football, the wide receivers are good enough to get open and maybe not as dynamic as someone like DK. And then the running game starts, playing better. I mean, that's the one thing I took away from these wild card games this weekend is watching some of these teams play, and their offensive line plays just night and day what I watched Seattle throw out there week in and week out.
Well, think about the Ravens running the ball. Think about the Eagles running the ball. Obviously, they have elite running backs, but they have elite offensive lines. I mean, and that's even Buffalo, what they did against Denver with James Cook. Like you have to be. If nothing else, we've seen the value of having a above average offensive line. It's likely going to get you to the playoffs if you have competent skill position players around them. And then when you get to the postseason, this weekend was as good an example as any of how important being able to run the ball in January and February truly is.
Yeah, because Curtis, look at it. I mean, we'll see a true number one tonight in Jefferson. But what about these other games this past weekend, right? What's the other true number one wide receiver in terms of a team that won or lost? I mean, A.J. Brown, and he had 3 targets and 1 catch?
A.J. is one of those receivers making north of 30 a year, and he's been, very, very good. Did he win that game for them this weekend? No. Like, it's an interesting cost-benefit analysis to kind of go about. Now, DK Metcalf would have helped the Chargers out quite a bit, though their offensive line played as equally bad as about the Seahawks had for, chunks of the season as well. So that, there would be teams out there that would certainly be interested in DK Metcalf if you made him available. So,
but let me jump in.
I do think it's interesting. Yeah.
Look at the Bills, who are going to be one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. Look at their wide receivers yesterday. Curtis Samuel, 3 catches, 68 yards. Khalil Shakir, 6 catches, 61. And then they got 2 tight ends in Kincaid and Knox.
They got rid of Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Who had been that guy for them for a while. They never got there with him on the roster.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you go with the Commanders yesterday. I mean, the Commanders, their leading wide receiver. They got Terry McLaurin yesterday and Diami Brown. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I never heard of that guy.
Yeah. No, I think it's what this weekend showed, and maybe this will be disproven next weekend in the divisional weekend. But if you have one guy, Terry McLaurin is the perfect example. If you have one guy that can go win off the line of scrimmage and get you a contested catch, and then you can fill in the rest with guys that you've never even heard of, and you can be successful. Now, they have a quarterback who does a whole bunch of stuff that is really, really special, and that looks like he's going to be a stud. But, to your point, like if you have one guy, one stud at receiver, you can kind of make it work. And that's kind of the philosophical question Seattle has to answer. Do you want to have 2, or do you feel comfortable with 1? Because
you look, it's kind of like the Lions example, right? Amon St. Brown makes a ton of money. Now, Jamison Williams does not yet.
Yes.
Now, he will eventually.
Probably can't with them for the long term. Yeah. I would think, and I would, pause it. That's the question you're going to have to answer.
But don't they make a decision eventually what they want to do? They'll have to choose.
Yeah, probably. I would think so. It's one year they're going to have to make a choice on at some point too.
But the reason they're successful and the reason they're going to be in a position to win the whole thing is because their offensive line and then their running backs. I mean, it starts there.
The receivers are certainly part of that conversation, but yeah, it's not like they have the one dominant receiver the Calvin Johnson era of the Detroit. It's not that. It's not a good quarterback, one receiver, and try to make it work elsewhere. And of course, they never could because they were incompetent as hell throughout those years. But yeah, I just in general, like I said earlier, it's tough to find that one game-changing receiver that pushes a team to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl because of that guy. And like I said, I think it was probably that Julio Jones possibility where they were leading 28-3 in the second half of the Super Bowl could have closed it out. It's the closest to that conversation I think you can probably get.
And Tim, they have no further evidence for that outlook on having a stud wide receiver or just having some, I want to say just some guys, but certainly not true number one wide receivers. I mean, they experience it themselves. It was in their own backyard. That's how they won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's how they got to back-to-back Super Bowls. I mean, my God, you sometimes forget in that second Super Bowl in which they lost to New England, their leading wide receiver that night was Chris Matthews.
I will never forget that because I was writing a Chris Matthews Super Bowl MVP story. I was in the right. Yeah, I mean, maybe Jermaine would have got it because of the catcher. You know, if Marshawn gets in, then maybe he's the Super Bowl MVP. But yeah, you saw the ability to win at the highest level with what was their thing? They hated being called pedestrians.
Yeah, pedestrians.
The Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin and Percy Harvin, Jermaine.
But collectively as a trio, they were so good.
Yeah, they were. They fit their roles incredibly well, but none of them were ever going to be quote unquote number one star receivers. And again, we bring this all the way back to DK. Like that's the question. Like how do you make this work from a complementary standpoint to improve a team that desperately needs help in one specific position group? Does that mean paying the wide receiver $35 million? I don't know. I really don't know. And part of it too is the free agent class for wide receivers this year, outside of T. Higgins, it's not great. It's T. Higgins is going to get paid. He's 100% going to get paid. Stephon Diggs probably going to get paid. Chris Goodwin's coming off an injury and he's been around for a while. Amari Cooper, I don't know, man. Like he's been sort of nothing, and I had him on my fantasy team this year, so I know he's been sort of nothing. DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen. Like, I'm not saying they should trade DK, but if there was ever a year because of what the free agent class looks like that maybe you could actually get some value for him on the trade market, I don't know. Maybe this could be the year. Look, I'm not advocating one way or the other about what they should do. I'm just saying, like, what you think your philosophy needs to be to win moving forward is sort of determined by what you do with wide receiver this offseason.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, there they are.
And
go ahead, Curtis.
That's the point I was making out of the DK conversation, because I think, like I said, I think either path you choose, there's validity to it, and you can head down either path. But that's going to change where you're going with your franchise and the team over the next couple of years based off of what you do with that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Booth, Seattle Times. Go check all his work there, seattletimes.com. Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13, covering all things Seahawks and everything for you, the sports devouring public. They do it all. One-stop shop there. A weekly conversation with us, brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Go visit georgetownbeer.com. When you're down there at the brewery, go check out the new Tavern Beer domestic style lager. Go ask your local bar to, if they don't have it on tap, to put on the Tavern Beer. It is a wonderful. Go check it out at georgetownbeer.com. All right, next week we'll put on the microscope the offensive line. That's always fun. Who doesn't like talking about offensive line for the past 10 years? So we'll do it next week. This episode of Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast will be up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe there. Also, check it out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Of course, always up at pucksports.com. Gentlemen, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, Puck. See ya.
Thanks, Puck. See ya.
There they are. Big thanks again to Tim Booth and to Curtis Crabtree for joining us earlier today. As I mentioned, we had to tape it early this morning because Tim had stuff to do. One more time, I'll just remind people that full episode of the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast up on YouTube, will be up on YouTube. Please like and subscribe there. Also, full episodes of the Daily Puck Drop, which includes the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast, up on all podcast platforms. Of course, you know your favorites, Apple, Spotify, and wherever you find your podcasts, and, of course, pucksports.com. For those, we did some different things during the holiday seasons before we get to Hey, What the Puck. So for the audio versions, and I've just been playing around with this, and again, we're just I'm just throwing ideas against the wall right now, and just trying to see what works, what doesn't work. Do I like doing the show this way? Do I like doing the show differently? Do we like doing it live? Do we not like doing it live? Should the show be all recorded and then just, go up a couple times a week? So everything is always on the table. One thing that we are experimenting with, I always say when I'm experimenting with is, so for the audio versions of the show, those for you that are listening to this or watching this live, again, only applies to the people that are going to go back and just listen to it later, is that we're just going to post the whole show up at once. So the Daily Puck Drop, rather than separating the interviews just all at once, we'll time stamp it like we've been doing. So if you want to fast forward, get past the nonsense of Jim and I, what we were talking about for an hour, and just get to the meat and potatoes, which was us with the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast, that will be up there. For the YouTube, for the viewers, most stuff will probably separate. So for the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast, I'll separate that on YouTube. So if you just want to, if the YouTube viewer, which I have found it's very fascinating, because I don't know how much it cross-pollinates, people that watch it on YouTube and then people that listen to it later. I feel like there's just this YouTube crowd and that's it. So for the YouTube people, I will post the whole thing up, but then for people that maybe just want to watch the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast, we'll post that up separately. Did I confuse anyone? I felt like when I was talking through that, I might have confused people. You can always listen to the show live, by the way, on the Puck Sports mobile app. We've got apps for both iOS and Android downloaded in the Google Play and the iOS store, or in the App Store today. As we always mention, everything is up later. So if you're watching this now, for those watching it later, when you're at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Plenty of you watch it, leave comments there. We need more of you to just hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button, up to date on everything that we do live and all the videos up there as well. And of course, all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all there for you to enjoy. All right, let's wrap it up with Hey, What the Puck? Brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that allows you to avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage, because they're going to take care of you, folks. Again, they're locally owned, operated. Make them your first call when damages do affect your residential or commercial property. Phone number, call 206-817-8917. Tell them Puck sent you. They're going to take care of you because they're great guys. Visit them also online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. So I was thinking a lot about this past weekend, as I detailed with Jim, and then why we didn't do the show live on Friday was I was in Centralia all weekend at the Northwest Sports Hub, which is like an indoor facility that hosts baseball games. They've got 3 fields in there that they can have. Also, a lot of softball. They do basketball in there. I think wrestling as well. And so I thought a lot about this weekend. Baseball in the Northwest in the winter. I mean, a lot of kids train and do a bunch of different stuff, something that we didn't do when we were kids. I'm 49. We didn't do this. We just played basketball. My son plays basketball as well. I coach middle school basketball. And I was wondering, as parents, are we putting too much pressure on these kids nowadays? Specialization. Now, specialization to me is we're only playing one sport and one sport only, and that's it. And that's not what a lot of these kids are doing. It's certainly not what my kid is doing. Maybe, I don't know about your kids. And so this whole weekend for me was checking in on my son. And I always ask him kind of the same stuff. Are you having fun? Do you like doing this? Is this a burden? Or you enjoy this? And, I pay attention to what he says, because he certainly could be lying. Oh, yeah, I love it. Is he just saying that to appease me? I don't ever get that sense, but I did want to check in with him a lot this weekend. Because I always ask him, you feel free to take a step back. You're playing basketball too. You don't have to. We don't have to do this unless you want to do it. It's got to be that you want to do it. I, for one, I don't care what he decides, nor do I think, if he decides I don't want to want to play winter ball anymore, be on a club team, I'm somehow going to get left behind. I don't think he's going to get left behind at all. I think there's a lot of pressure from parents to feel that their kids are going to get left behind. He enjoys playing because he loves baseball, and baseball is his favorite sport. But he likes all the sports. He's one of those kids. Your kids maybe are probably like this as well. Hey, what's your favorite sport? I get that a lot. What is Owen's favorite sport? I just say, it really, if he had to pick one, it's probably going to lean towards baseball. But if you ask him during football season, he's going to say football. If you ask him right now, it's basketball season, he's going to say basketball. When you get into baseball here, when it really ramps up, he's going to say baseball. He just enjoys playing. And, since it's basketball season, I can tell based on what he does at home and how he talks and things that he looks at, that basketball right now is his favorite sport because it's the one that's in season right now, and we're playing games. We do have a few conflicts with basketball and baseball. And we told him, hey, listen, basketball, because it's where you're actually playing like real games that really, really count. That's gonna take priorities. I don't go to these games and live and die on every pitch. And I really honestly don't care about the outcome. Do I want him and their team to win? And do I want him to do well? Well, of course, every parent wants that. You'd be lying if you didn't. Every parent feels that way. But I did see some teams lose this weekend, and I saw a lot of kids hanging their head, a few crying. And I thought, and some parents shaking their heads in disgust. And my first thought was, I wonder how that car ride home was like. Well, it's January. They're playing baseball indoors in kind of a make-believe pretend baseball diamond. Our chats on the way home were, did you have fun? Can you believe that ball hit the net, ricocheted back down, and the kid caught it? Can you believe Johnny threw the kid out from left field to first base? Can you believe, why did you slide to third base on a carpet when we told you not to slide? Things like that. And then where were we going for dinner? And by the way, recommendation from a buddy of mine, Kyle Poffroth, shout out Kyle. He said to go to the Oyster House in Olympia. And you know what? From someone who's Pacific Northwest born and bred, having never heard of this place, been there for 100 years, I feel like an idiot. We went to the Oyster House. Unbelievable. I will be driving back down to go to the Oyster House in Olympia and got the Drunken Chef, which was unbelievable. One of the greatest meals I've ever had. Highly recommended. So I would just say this to the parents, and there's a lot of you out there that are living through your kids. And the reaction in the stands and when I was watching parents, interact with other parents, interacting with the umpires, interacting with their kids after the games, we all want them to succeed as parents. I would just say, be careful how much you're projecting onto your kids based on how you felt your childhood was, because that's never a good thing to live your life and maybe some failures that you had or regrets that you had through now your kids. And I just thought a lot about this weekend. It's January. They're 11. They were playing baseball indoors, which was fun. Many more important things in life. And certainly no reason this past weekend for any parents to leave any facility shaking their heads and having stern talks with their kids on the way home. All right. That's it for Hey, What the Puck? Again, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Give them a call, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. A couple of things for the Pucks Posse members, VIP content that is up there. If you want to become a Pucks Posse member, you get VIP content plus all the free content we do that I provide daily for you for just $5 a month. I mean, my God, it's $5 a month. It's nothing. You get all the free content, live shows, all the stuff that we do that's podcasted for you. Plus, on top of that, exclusive VIP content just for members. We have the Dynamic Duos that is up there right now with Mike Gastineau and Dave Grosby, Gros and Gas, hour and 15 minutes. They're just telling stories about their time on the radio back in the day on KJR. And then the latest edition, O-Day football coach, we call it our Speakeasy edition, O-Day football coach Monty Kohler, 45 minutes of just talking about culture, life, high school football, high school athletics, the benefits of playing. Every parent should listen to this one. And just the relationships that you build being a coach, and why after 40 plus years, what has led to his success at O'Day, and why does he still do it, and why does he still have so many coaches that are still with him? A real fun conversation with one of the best people in the business, Monty Cola. That's all up there. Puck's Posse members. Go to pucksports.com. There's a sign up there right at the top of the website. Also, you can go to the Patreon page, Puck's Posse, or Puck Sports there to find it. And let me know if you have any concerns, any issues with the $5. You can email me any more questions at pucksports.com. All right. All this today's show, the Monday's Daily Puck Drop, up on YouTube. Again, when you're there, please subscribe. Available on all the podcast platforms there as well. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. Tuesday edition of the show, we'll talk to Danny Kelly more on the Seahawks draft. John Canzano coming up tomorrow there as well. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!